It is way too hot to wear this hoodie. But I'm here and it doesn't matter because we have amazing fights this weekend, so I'm just gonna put up with it for me and for you. Thank you so much for tuning into the 6th round once again. Don't forget to smash the subscribe button at the end of the video. If you agree or disagree, please let your voice be heard in the comment section below. Whether it's a like as well or a respective dislike, it doesn't matter. Even if you want to give me one of these, I'm down, just as long as you watch the content and you're able to provide feedback and we're able to basically talk about this if you want to talk about it. But we're just gonna get right into it because we have an amazing free card this weekend. So yes, save your dollars for an upcoming pay-per-view. But nonetheless, please tune in to UFC on ESPN +3 down at the Target Center in Minneapolis. The reason why you're going to tune in is because we have we have a whole lineup of fantastic fights, but to the people that are just getting into the MMA world that only know those top tier names, we have 2 fantastic fights in the co-main event and main event respectively. We're going to start off with the co-main event, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important fights probably in UFC history, at least for the flyweight division. The reason is because it doesn't include a championship title on the line. So these two really have to battle it out to prove, like, listen, the flyweights still have it. The contenders are still watchable. They're amazing. They're tenacious. Probably more tenacious than most of the divisions in the UFC, in my opinion. Previous WEC and UFC bantamweight champion and flyweight champion, respectively, Joseph Benavidez, and he is going up against Jussier Formiga. Now, Jussier Formiga is on a 4-fight win streak, and his last 2 coming via unanimous decision, one against Sergio Pettis and the other one coming against Figueiredo. I really hope I said your last name right. If I didn't, I am truly sorry. But his gas tank is no surprise. Most of his wins and also losses, even though he only has a select few on his record, are coming via decision. And one of them is against the current champ and an opponent that Joseph Benavidez is also used to fighting, and that is Henry Cejudo. But the difference here is Jussier lost to Henry Cejudo via split decision, where Joseph Benavidez beat Henry Cejudo via split decision. But also we can say the same thing about Sergio Pettis. Sergio Pettis is one to successfully beat Joseph Benavidez by decision, where Formiga has beat Sergio Pettis. This is going to be a fantastic fight. How do I know? Because these two have fought before in the octagon. This is Formiga versus Benavidez number 2. The first outing where they first met years ago, Formiga was taken out by a vicious knee attack by Joseph Benavidez, losing via TKO. Now this is one of those fights, again, we have amazing jiu-jitsu practitioner versus amazing wrestler. And for me, the alpha male guys, I wouldn't even consider them just wrestlers as well. They have amazing head movement, amazing striking as well, and they just never stop. Not to say that Formiga doesn't have a fantastic cardio tank, he absolutely does, but these alpha male guys are on a different level. At least they were when they were in their primes. But something about Joseph Benavidez, I really feel, in my opinion, that he hasn't really lost any pep in his step. He hasn't really lost the juice. And if that is the case, then Formiga better have his guard up at all times, because I always say, and I'm very true to this, in the MMA world, note when I say the MMA world, I believe that the best wrestler will negate all the abilities on the ground of the best jiu-jitsu guy 9 times out of 10. That is because there is a time limit. There's only 5-minute rounds. So sometimes jiu-jitsu guys, especially in the early days, in the early UFC 1s, 2s, and 3s, back in the Royce Gracie day where he was king, he'd be able to take his time, let the wrestler tire himself out doing whatever he needs to do while he's caught in maybe the Gracie spider web, the rubber guard, whatever the case may be. And of course, when a mistake slips up, that's when the jiu-jitsu guy is able to strike. But sometimes 5 minutes isn't enough to do that, especially when you have someone like Joseph Benavidez pounding you non-stop while he is using his efficient wrestling. I think this could be very, very, very difficult for Jussier Formiga. I know they met before and they felt each other out before. I know they're kind of different fighters now in a sense. They've grown since their previous outing, but I still think Joseph Benavidez has this. If I'm going to break this down, I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. I think it's going to have the crowd on their feet. I think it's going to have everybody cheering, but I don't think it's going to be a finish. I think this one is going to go straight to decision, and Formiga's going to play it a little bit safe. Obviously, it's still going to be entertaining. He's going to want to get that W. He's going to want to make it decisive so he can put the flyweight division back on the map, but I do think the Benavidez is still going to be too quick. Too much creativity in his striking and his wrestling ability and his takedowns and fantastic takedown defense. I don't think Formiga's going to be able to get in there the way he wants to and get a hold of Benavidez. So I do see Benavidez getting this via unanimous decision. Now, when we go to the main event, we are talking about the 2 biggest heavyweight kingpins in terms of knockout ability anyways, as far as the UFC has ever seen. We are talking about the previous heavyweight champion of the UFC, Junior Dos Santos, going up against previous title Contender, and how do you put it? The strongest, scariest son of a bitch that the UFC has ever seen, ever. And we're talking about Africa's own Francis Ngannou. Now, they are both knockout artists, that is for sure, but they are knockout artists in a different way. Junior Dos Santos is more of a proficient boxer. I know that Ngannou is a great boxer, but has fantastic head movement, and he hits you from so many different angles, and he has fantastic kicks as well. He wheel kicked Mark Hunt right into a TKO loss. He can hit you from anywhere. He is very elusive with his striking, but also Ngannou needs to watch out because Junior is fantastic on the ground. He is a jiu-jitsu black belt, and he is also great with his wrestling. All weapons that Ngannou isn't really good at, no offense. But Ngannou also has unprecedented power in both of his hands. And his long reach also gives him the ability to not really have to worry about his head movement too much because he can hit you at afar before you even get in close to even kind of get near him with your attacks. And that's the one thing about Ngannou that's very, very scary. He has a reach and he knows how to use it. And his knockout power, when he hits you with a punch, you're out for a long time, and some people are even questioning in the audience whether or not you have died. When he knocked out Alistair Overeem, it was a knockout that you have never seen in MMA ever like that. You have never seen anybody crumble in such a disgusting, eerie, uncomfortable way. I love MMA, I love the UFC. It's my favorite sport, my favorite organization in the world. But the one thing for sure is that scared me. That gave me minor anxiety because I was actually truly worried for Alistair Overeem. And of course, in his latest outing, when he knocked the hell out of Cain Velasquez in a very, very similar fashion. So Junior has to watch out, even though he's a fantastic boxer, knocking out former title contender themselves and Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa, and as well, big guys like Frank Mir, Shane Carwin, and Cain Velasquez, a similar foe to Francis Ngannou. Now, obviously, the keys to victory are very, very simple. Francis Ngannou needs to keep it as far away as he can and just catch him with his strikes, his long limbs. He needs to stay far back and try to refrain from using any kicks. I don't think he has very many kicks in his arsenal to begin with, but now is not the time to use them. Because if Francis Ngannou throws a kick, he's going to lead right into the keys to victory for Junior Santos. And Junior Santos' keys to victory are very simple. Close the distance, grab a hold of him, and if you can, take him to the ground. I don't want you to try to stand up and bang on the feet, because although you are the far superior boxer in terms of head movement and technique, you are not the far superior powerhouse, which means one thing only. You could catch Francis Ngannou with 25 punches, and we've seen his jaw. He could take it. In that match against Stipe Miocic, he went the full 25 minutes. He was a punching bag, but nonetheless, he went the full 25 minutes while getting beat in the face. So Junior needs to be weary of this, because if he's going and they're landing a bunch of strikes, that may be good for the judges' point cards, but as soon as Francis Ngannou lands one technique on Junior Dos Santos, I do think this is going to be the end of Junior Dos Santos. So I'm going to say that I think that Junior Dos Santos is going to win. Why? Because he wants to get back into the title contention. He wants to get back at that title shot. The only way he does it is to maybe not do what he likes to do all the time and stand up and bang. He needs to use the rest of his arsenal in this MMA game. Get a hold of him, take him to the ground, and ground and pound him. And I do think that's what he's going to do, and maybe even pull off a submission. So I'm going to go for Junior Dos Santos in round 3. He has to get Francis Ngannou gassed, and he has to get Francis Ngannou to slip up so you can close that distance and take advantage. But those are my predictions. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please watch UFC on ESPN Plus 3 this weekend. It is going to be fantastic, and probably some highlight reels to remember for the UFC going forward and for friggin' ever. Thank you so much. Like and comment. Like I said, it doesn't have to be positive, doesn't have to be negative. I don't really care. As long as you engage, let me know if you agree or disagree. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. We are going to see you for next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Notification bell, subscribe, and all that stuff, and peace.